There's been so many marketing campaigns that I have thought this is going to be the ticket. Everybody's going to love this. Sunk so much money into ads and it just absolutely flops for one reason or the other. It doesn't connect with the audience. Guys have a lot of stuff that we try and carry on our own shoulders. There's constantly stress, but there is a breaking point for anybody, and you hear about it all the time. They go to work, they put on this tough face like the world is against them and they're going to take it on, fight hell with a water gun.
What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast, coming back to you today with another king on the stage, my brother Tyler Woodall. My man, how we doing?
Howdy, everybody. I am doing well, man. You having a good morning so far?
Dude, it's Monday. We're cranking, and I love that you use the word howdy because, you know, as we talked about, you know, off the air here, I was like, man, my man's he's got to be from somewhere. Oh, that's right, South Carolina. I can hear it in his voice. Tyler, tell us what kind of business that you got, man.
Yeah, so basically I've got a business, Agency Aid / C4 Solutions, and essentially what we do on the agency aid side of things is we help insurance agencies to scale and buy back their time. I'm a former agency owner, so I built out tons of standard operating procedures. We help people automate the back end of their business, hire virtual assistants to delegate those tasks to, and then allow them to focus forward-facing with customers. Yeah. And so on the C4 solution side of things, same business. It's a more generic version where we're helping provide solutions to any business owner out there.
Love it. Good. So anybody listening today could use your service, is what I'm hearing.
Potentially, yep, for sure. So
if they are an entrepreneur.
We started helping a lot of people on the agency aid side of things, and still like 70% of who we work with are insurance agencies. Yeah. But we started finding that everyday entrepreneurs needed help with things like social media, graphic design. And so we started making specific products for other businesses, just to help them offload tasks off of their calendar and try and buy back their time so they can spend it with family or talking to more prospects.
Yeah, I love it, man. That's a big part of what Gathering the Kings, at least the mindset is like, hey, there's a team here. There's a unit here. You can't be doing it yourself. And a lot of times in the agency world, that's what happens, right? Is like it's a one-man band. But I also find the same thing in other industries. I love how you've crossed over into other spaces, whether it's contractors, whether it's service providers, you name it. Really, when you remove the actual task or tasks, it's the game of business. So we're going to talk a little game of business here, you and me. Before we do that, though, practicality-wise, I want to know, Tyler, like, why is Tyler doing business? Why is he an entrepreneur? What gets your juices flowing in the morning? Like, really deep down in there, what gets you up?
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been super entrepreneurial. Like, my dad owned a business while I was growing up, and just watching dad do his thing, I mean, that was all I ever dreamt of. So when I was in middle school, started a candy business, went to Sam's, bought a 72 box of Snickers for $36, so 50 cents each. Went to school, sold them all for $1, went back to Sam's, bought Snickers and Reese's, and just kept doing that thing. So I've always just had that itch. And then ran a couple online businesses when I was in college, sold T-shirts and used the proceeds to feed kids in Central America. So it was a kind of philanthropic business. So made me feel good, but it gave me a really safe place to learn business and how to manage people and managing inventory and supply chain. So really neat breadth of stuff I've gotten to experience through my life, and then eventually got into insurance, built an agency, the door-to-door grind. Like, I was dialing 150 businesses a day, and then I'd walk in 30 businesses just trying to sell them commercial insurance. And eventually, kind of February of this year, so we're recording this thing in December, kind of life flipped. I had to put down my dog. He was about to turn 15 years old. Whoa. And through that process, it made me just reassess life. What do I like? What do I not like? What do I want my life to look like? And so I decided, this business that I have currently got, I don't love. Let's get rid of it. I had a relationship for a few years that had kind of been going back and forth. I decided, this is definitely not it. Let's end this thing. I've got this long bucket list that I've not been checking anything off of. Let's start attacking it. And so 6 months down the line, my life just looked completely different. And so that's my goal now, is just trying to help unlock that for other people, because if you can start with some intentionality behind it, you can really build your dream life. It just takes sitting down and thinking about what that is. And that's a lot easier said than done.
Yeah. Yeah. The intentionality piece is, in essence, what most people are missing. They're just drifting. That's what I'm hearing you say. You know, there's a fun book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Have you read this book?
I've got it. I've not read it. Actually, a mentor of mine recommended it about a month ago, and I just got it on Amazon.
There you go. Well, there's your sign. But in the book, he talks about most people are drifting. And that's in essence what you were doing, and what you are now helping people get away from is the drift, the unintentional, just wake up and go again. We don't know why. It's actually one of the biggest reasons why I ask the first question here, as far as the why. Like, why do you do what you do? And I'm gonna press on your answer here a little bit, because I think you went through a scenario there where you started asking yourself some really, really hard questions. But why did you make the changes? You saw that they weren't fulfilling you, but what does fulfill you? What are you made for?
Yeah. So honestly, really great question, in-depth question. So myself, definitely spiritual walk. I am a strong believer. I feel like I'm here on this earth for a purpose. And I felt like what I was doing in life was not pursuing anything other than just trying to survive.
Yeah.
We're here for a lot more. Myself, I'm a Christian. Bible talks about if God will take care of the daisies in the fields, how much more so will he take care of us? And so if I'm here on this earth, I'm not here for a sad life. So I started thinking about, what do I want, and started pursuing that. And so the most fulfilled I ever felt in my life were some of these mission trips that I was leading during college, when we had the SOP project, the t-shirt brand I mentioned. Yeah. And so I started backing in, well, how do I get to that full time? And so obviously you got to make money. I enjoy business. I feel like I'm talented in aspects. So let's use that talent. Let's scale teams so that they can manage the business, and then free up my time on the other end. So that's some of the stuff that we're working on now. Now that I feel like business is kind of rolling, I have a team in place that manages everything. Now it's, all right, let's get this endowment fund off the ground and kind of pursue long-term legacy play.
Yeah, I love that. I was just talking with a gentleman just this past weekend, actually, that I felt like there were maybe 3 sets of people, and I'm hearing you being one of them. The first group of these 3 people, one is I'm all in on ministry, right? Like they're probably in another country or pastoring a church, whatever that looks like, and they're all in, and that's good. And then you have the guy like you who's like, no, I want to do both. I've got skill sets in both of these, and I'm gonna do business and build teams, but I also want to go and be part of the extended hand. And then you've got guys that are like, you know what? I don't think like that. I would love to think like that, but I don't. So I'm just going to build massive businesses and give tons of money so that guys like Tyler and other folks, or the guy in the first category, can do the thing. And I think that it takes all 3 actually to make it go around, and really just comes down to how we're wired. So I appreciate you sharing like that. What do you think that, like, if someone's listening to you right now going like, well, how am I wired? And I wonder if I'm like Tyler. How did you kind of stumble upon, like, I've got these talents, but I also want to do this? Yeah, talk about that.
You just have to try stuff. There's no way to just, in my mind, from my experience, there's no way to know what you're going to like until you just try things. And so that's why I think for college students, internships are so important, just because you can find out what you like. You'll likely get paid doing it. It's for 3 to 6 months, so you're not wasting that much time. I think that's important. I think travel is so huge. If you just get on Google Flights, you can find cheap flights anywhere in the world. Go somewhere out of the country and just experience what stuff is like not in America, because it is so different. You're going to find how much people value life, how appreciative they are for what they have. It's just a completely different mindset shift that you'll find whenever you do get to travel and explore and see other cultures.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review. post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. I remember in high school doing some mission trips and, seeing some pretty impoverished, I wouldn't even call them neighborhoods, because we were building the neighborhood. They previously had been living in boxes, and so it's like, man, you come back as a 16, 17, 18, even 25-year-old, and you're like, whoa, like I have running water. I could take a shower whenever I want. I can go drink the water from the faucet. This is, wow. Okay, well, I appreciate the heart there. How have you, obviously you've tied that to your business now where you guys are starting to work those things in, but in the process of building systems, because that's really what you do. You build systems and you build teams so that either agency owners or entrepreneurs can kind of systematize their business and be able to get their time back. But there's a heart that you're talking about that goes into also the systems. How have you kind of mirrored, and we'll get into practically how you build the systems, but systems can be robotic, but you're talking about like heart level caring for people across the world. How do these things go together, do you think?
So I think culture is really important when building a team. And I will not claim to say that I have the answers here. I honestly feel like I was blessed and lucked into hiring some really great people. Initially, it was kind of trial and error for a while.
Sure.
Eventually, I found the right person to help me. He has grown into our COO and helped me recruit the rest of the people that have built the organization. But I think culture is super important, and just casting that vision and finding people that agree with it. So now inside of my business, we get to do lots of mission opportunities, helping in other countries, getting to donate and helping fund needs is really awesome. But my team gets really excited about it too. And that makes it so much more fulfilling. But I think there is the culture aspect and being intentional about taking care of those people too. That's one of the things we've done is on my team, we obviously have KPIs where we're tracking the business and trying to grow, but we've initiated a program where we call it life goals, where we've got our HR manager. If anybody's open to it, they don't have to, but she will work with them on their life goals. So love, influence, finance, and energy, just helping to show we care about you as a person outside of the business. How can we help you meet where you're trying to go in life?
Yeah, that's cool, man. What do you think the value for you, but really kind of, through your story here, for the listener and any business owner out there, why should they do the same thing? I mean, you're taking good care of people, but why?
So I'm trying to think of who said the quote. I feel like it was a Steve Jobs or somebody in that realm. They talked about, somebody asked them the question, hey, what if we train these people to work inside of our business? We put in all this time and money and then they leave. And his response was, what if we don't train them and they stay? And so it's just building something much longer term. So we're super intentional to try and build our employees, but then if they're not satisfied and fulfilled, they're not robots, they're not machines, they're people too. And so if they don't feel fulfilled, they're going to be looking for the door. And so making sure that they're happy and satisfied is going to keep them inside of our company. So with our team, my goal is I have a customer success manager. I tell everybody, if we can nail the first 6 weeks with a client, we'll make it so they never leave. And then my HR manager, if we can nail it when we onboard a new team member, we'll make it so they never leave. And so we're just trying to make this thing more and more sustainable as we go.
Yeah, love that. What would you say to, let's say, the construction guy who's listening right now, and he's like, my guys are like, men. And you're talking about being all frou-frou and stuff. I don't understand the value of this. What would you tell that guy?
I get it. Honestly, guys have a lot of stuff that we try and carry on our own shoulders. There's constantly stress, but there is a breaking point for anybody. And you hear about it all the time. And guys, they go to work, they put on this tough face like the world is against them and they're going to take it on, fight hell with a water gun. But it is what it is. They're going to go home and break down, and their family life may or may not be great. And there's going to be so many things that you as the business owner don't know about that this guy's going through. You don't know that his situation with his wife's rough, or his kids struggling in school and it's causing him to stress out because he doesn't know how to fix the problem. So the more that you can help him put the right blocks in the right holes, like match up the boxes correctly, the more he's going to feel in control of his life. Because as a man, that's all we want. Like, as terrible as it is, we want control and we want to fix the world that we live in. So help him do that, and he's going to be incredibly loyal to you.
Yeah, that's super powerful, man. I think that if we could just hit the pause button or replay that a couple, 3, 4 times, that was really, really powerful. Okay, let's go into early stages here. I know you're in second business now, so pull from whichever one, because you're kind of in early stages, although you've got a team and you're grinding it, but you're in the midst of it. What's just been a super practical decision that you've made that you would just repeat over and over and over, that you would suggest any listener following along?
So with my team, for second business, we got very intentional about what we wanted our client journey to look like. So what exactly do we deliver for the client? How do we go about telling them about that solution, getting them to decide they want the solution, and then implementing the solution long-term? And what are all the steps along the way? And as you define that, make it as simple as possible for yourself to deliver those. So we've got folders that have all of our standard operating procedures. So we do the same thing every single time. It may get monotonous, but it's extremely efficient. So any new client that we get, it's a smooth process to deliver the results that we promise. Yeah. So
it's good.
Try to over deliver and then build with referrals from there.
I was gonna say, yeah, you just dropped a couple extra big nuggets there. But before we go there, going back to this, monotonous, repeated, you had kind of mentioned, I think actually before we hit the record button, but that you started just thinking about the things that you were doing on a regular basis. You wrote them down, you recorded them, and then you hired somebody to start doing them. That's like a super a simplification of it, but break that down a little bit so that way the listener's like, well, how do I go about doing this thing? What does that look like for them?
Yep. So there's 2 books I would recommend to anybody. One is called The E-Myth, and one is Buy Back Your Time. Both of these books teach about how, as entrepreneurs, a lot of times we have a great idea, we're working for a business, and we think we can go do it better. So we leave to go do that thing, really actually make just a crappy job for ourselves. We have to wear all the hats, all the stress for probably less money. And so what I did is I wrote out exactly what does my business do, kind of like that customer journey I mentioned. And then I typed out step by step how to do each of those tasks. And then I recorded a video in Loom. A lot of mine for my insurance agency was digital, so I could just record myself narrating what was going on in the screen. And I explained the whole process. So I built 150 of these standard operating procedures, and then I hired somebody else, sent them all 150 documents and said, here's what I need you to do. Let's go get started, watch these videos, and then as I have tasks, I'm going to send them to you, tell you which document to refer to, and as we grow, you'll just know and can kind of take it from there. And that's how we got started. And I think done is better than perfect. So start with, what are my biggest headaches now? Where do I spend my time? And just kind of progress from there. You don't have to have the whole business automated today, but let's get like 10% better.
The guy that's listening right now, or gal, that is not in a digital environment, video still apply here? Other tactics that give us the scoop.
I think video is huge, just because once you have a process down that works, when you record it, you remove the human element. You don't have to have a person teaching how to do it every single time. You don't know what that trainer's day is like. You don't know if they're stressed out thinking about something else, so nothing gets missed. So if you have a checklist that is a simple way for somebody to check off step by step what to do, and then a video showing them how to do it, you never know if somebody's a visual or audio learner. So I think that's the smoothest way to do it. But I also think checklists are huge as well. So if it's not a digital world, that'll help them just follow a simple framework.
Yeah.
And it gives accountability. If somebody does the frameless the correct way, the checklist is all done, checked off, they signed it at the bottom, and you don't get the result, you know, hey, this employee, they did what I told them to do. It's not necessarily their fault. Let's fix the framework, but not terminate the employee or discipline them because they've done what I asked. So it's a me problem this time.
Yeah. You said something interesting in there that they would sign it at the bottom. What's the mentality here? And then I'll share a little bit of a story from my perspective.
So Jocko talks all about extreme ownership, and I'm big on that as well. So everybody in my team, when you have your SOPs that you do, you're in charge of them. And so you are accountable for that task. And ultimately, it works its way up to the owner. And anything my business does, it's my fault. So if something goes wrong, it's on me. But I think having people sign their name next to it, showing that I'm proud of what I've done, just makes them work that much harder throughout the process.
Yeah, I found that it actually ensures that they do every single piece. With some of my first companies or edible arrangements franchises, and when there's a cleaning checklist at the end of the night. And so when I was very much still in the stores and operating at different locations, I'd come in the morning, and you look at the checklist and it's all checked, but you can clearly see a couple things around the store that weren't done, and you're like, wait a second, how did you not do it? But then you checked it. Like, this doesn't make sense. And so what I found is that implementing that signature at the bottom, they go through it line by line. It doesn't like what was happening was this. I'll do it by memory, and then on the way out, I go check, turn the page, and then I'm out the door. It's like, but as soon as you put that name next to it, you're like, wait a second, did I do that? Yeah. Did I do that? Yeah. Check. Like, you're actually looking at it, making sure that you did it, and then you sign that name because it just, in essence, you're keeping honest people honest.
That's awesome.
And if you have somebody that's not honest, then it's probably not a good fit anyway.
Yep.
Right?
That's true. Try and filter those out in the hiring process.
Yeah. Or pretty quickly, because every now and then we make a mistake. But let's flip the coin here. You've given quite a bit of value here already, but something that you've done that didn't work, something that maybe you've tried to help other agency owners stay away from, or other entrepreneurs.
Yeah, 100%. So there's a lot. So myself and my team, we are constantly every week trying to implement something new. 9 out of 10 times it doesn't work. So there's been so many marketing campaigns that I have thought, this is going to be the ticket. Everybody's going to love this. Sunk so much money into ads, and it just absolutely flops for one reason or the other. It doesn't connect with the audience. It doesn't fill a big enough pain point that I thought. One of the things we've tried to do is we tried to launch some giveaway ads to help local insurance agents. So we ran a giveaway, get people to sign up, tons of people sign up. And then all the insurance agent has to do is just cold call these leads, say, follow our script, but say, hey, you entered the giveaway. If you want 25 additional points, we can get you a quote on your insurance, yada, yada, yada. And I thought it was great because I could just fill their calendar with leads, but they didn't want a cold call. So I fixed the problem, but I didn't fix the right problem. And so spent tons of time and money trying to do that, and then progressed to fixing the next thing.
Yeah, that's interesting because you would think that, I mean, obviously there is a certain breed of insurance person that would have no problem with those leads, which is fine. But to your point, you were solving the wrong problem. And so how did you go about fixing that? Was it like, I'm now knees deep into this, I sell it to somebody else? Or did you stick with your current then audience and go, all right, out with this problem. What is the real problem? How did you do that?
Yeah. So honestly, it was just a lot of reflection with my team and analyzing how sales calls went. So I try to take copious notes, or we record our calls, but just the willingness to fail fast. I think figuring out that sometimes things aren't going to go how you want it, and constantly using metrics to measure success and clearly defining what is success, what is not success. When you're in that not success bucket, when do you know to just cut it and move on to the next thing? Right. And so it was kind of a gut feeling there. We had went for a few weeks, weren't having the success that we had hoped for. and just decided as a team, okay, this is what's going on. This may not be the correct solution there.
Hey, kings and queens, Chaz Wolf. I want to talk to you about something that's super important to me. We put a lot of time and effort, we meaning myself and my team, into this podcast, into the content that goes out every single day. And if you have been getting any sort of value or insight from this, we want it to be able to reach other business owners too. So we would love if you would like, comment, share, leave a review, post, share again, all of the things on social media, on all the different platforms, or even on the podcast mediums of Apple and Spotify. We would love to be able to get our content into more hands, more entrepreneurs, so they can grow their business as quick as possible. Together, we are building a community of like-minded entrepreneurs who are committed to growing their businesses to new heights. So let's do this. Let's help each other. Let's help each other grow. Yeah. It's interesting because you're talking about perspective, or, sometimes whether we're in a situation or where we're around other people or we read a book, like you said, E-Myth and the other suggestion earlier, but we have these moments where our mind changes. And so I guess for you, my question is going to be through you into your clients. What do you see as that most often perspective change for them? Or maybe what's the easiest one in that first 6 weeks that you're trying to land for them that really helps them, project out into their business future?
For insurance agents specifically, because that's where I really feel like we've got a great mousetrap. A lot of times they feel that they have to be involved in all the stages of the process. They feel like I gathered the information, so I have to be the one that quotes it in the carrier and then presents it to the client. Well, if you have a standard procedure that gathers information into the agency, then it's going to make sure that it's entered correctly the same way every time into carriers. So that's what we do, is we teach insurance agents, hey, you use this standardized quoting form. It may be boring. It may be a pain to fill out all the questions each time, but by doing it this way, it makes sure that it's done correctly every time. It gives the information to your team member that handles it, or in this case, when you work with us, a virtual assistant, the VA takes those things, enters the same information to quote a home, quote a car, quote a rental property, whatever it is, and then they pull the finished quotes and present it to the insurance agent. The agent takes that and presents it to the client. So it's just showing them that you don't have to be involved in all steps, and somebody can do this. So we've got almost an insurance licensing training for our virtual assistants. So we teach them what our coverage is, what do they mean, how to determine the types of roofs on a house, et cetera. So they know pretty much everything. They're going to know close to what the agent knows. They don't have to know everything, and they don't have to be perfect. If they're 80% of what the agent knows, it's probably going to get the job done right. So that's what we try and teach, is just you don't have to be involved in everything in order to grow, and in order to live the life you're hoping to live. You can't possibly do everything.
Yeah.
So
I want to throw a scenario and see what your thoughts are on this, because you're 100% right. It's not even just agency owners. It's most entrepreneurs think they have to be involved in everything. And so oftentimes too, when we think as entrepreneurs about creating a system, like you said, it feels, mundane, or like just 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's just, as entrepreneurs, is not how we think. We would much rather just be like, let me get into the scenario and I'll figure it out as I go. That gives us life, So for us to think how valuable it could be to create a 1, 2, 3, 4 system seems, it's almost unimaginable, because that wouldn't work for us, because we're not employable. But actually what I've found is that the typical person on the other side of it who wants to be part of a team, who wants to be part of your crazy machine that's moving in all sorts of different directions, they actually want structure. They want the 1, 2, 3, 4. It actually gives them life. So what would you say to the entrepreneur who's like, I'm sorry, what? A 1, 2, 3, 4 gives somebody life? What are you talking about?
Yep. A lot of times when the world is their oyster and there's so many different opportunities, it's really stressful to people to pick what should I do. And so when you make it very clear to them, here's my expectations for you as a part of our company. This is exactly what I need done every single time. And here's the instructions on how to do it, so you don't have to ask me every time. It just makes it a lot smoother. And so by having those 1, 2, 3, 4 steps for the employee, it frees up more time for the entrepreneur to get to go be crazy and think about all the different solutions they can keep adding to the world, and all the new ways they can improve their business.
Yeah, and I think that the caveat there is that they're not providing something that's boring to the other person. The other person actually wants it. They love
Right.
it. They need it. They crave it, right? It's like just like the entrepreneur craves the kind of little bit of chaos. The other person's like, no, I don't want chaos at all. I want order.
Right.
Therefore, steps in the SOP, and they're like, hey, I'll crush this SOP all day, every day, because that's how they're wired. That's how they're made. Anything else to add here on team building, especially with VAs? Like, there's probably some people right now who don't even know what a VA is. So give us a little explanation, and then two, further, like, is it really possible that I could hire somebody that like I've never met before and I never see them and they're able to do things for me? Help me understand.
Right. So we run into a lot of misconceptions here with virtual assistants. So all it is, a VA, virtual assistant, is just an employee that works virtually for your business. So obviously times have changed. We are remote, not in the same room right now, but we're getting to have a conversation. It's the same way with an employee. So it's not just some magical person on the other side of the world. Like my VAs, we get on Zoom calls almost every day and discuss what are we trying to work on. We send messages back and forth in Slack. Like we are a cohesive team, all operating together. We just work in different places. And so the internet has allowed us to separate quite a bit. And Zoom and platforms like that have been extremely beneficial. As far as for having a VA work inside of your business, the biggest thing I always get asked is just kind of that control factor. Like, how do I know that they're working? Okay, well, there's a few things you can do. If you don't trust this person and if they're brand new, you can use a time tracker or a screen tracker, something like that, to track what they're doing. My team does that just so that we can prove to a business owner, hey, we have your person working. Here's what they're working on. Here's the checks and balances, et cetera. But if a business owner is just hiring them on their own, that's step one. Step two is as you start growing, there's going to be enough volume of work being done that you're going to see that, okay, this person is actually working because all the stuff I hate doing is getting finished for me. So with myself and my core team, that's how we do it. I don't use time trackers and stuff like that. If my people are knocking out the tasks that I gave them and that they're supposed to be doing, I do not care how long it takes them. If you want to knock out a couple hours early and go hang out with your family, great. You got the job done that I asked for you to do. I want you to be happy and fulfilled as well. So
Yeah, you're talking about managing from deliverables. So talk about just a little further on this. How does one separate hourly wage, which is maybe old school and kind of in order to be in person, I got to control you and we're going to work for 8 hours here in the office. And, I can look over there in that office over there and I can see that you're quoting things versus now it's remote and I can't see you. I can still manage from an hourly perspective on the screen. I think those things are great. But really what you're talking about is getting to a place where you can manage the deliverables.
right. So again, it goes back to that whole client journey path. You've got to decide what exactly do I have to deliver to my clients in order to be successful. And so when you know exactly what that thing is, it's easy to know the deliverables that, hey, in order to first do this, like a marketing agency, for example, first we have to define who our client is that we're marketing to. And then we have to work on the ad creative. And then we have to write the copy. And then we have to launch the ad. Then we build the follow-ups and keep rolling. So if somebody's in charge of each one of those steps, when they finish that step, they're done until you can move on to the next phase. And so I don't just want them riding the clock. If they finish whatever it is, that task that they have to do, fine. You did your job for me. You did what I'm paying you to do. Get to enjoy a little bit. And some business owners are going to be different. And that's why we provide a lot of the other stuff as well, some of the tracking. And we try to do some cross training. Like once your virtual assistant's done with quotings, if they don't have any more quotes to do for the day and the business owner's cool with it, we teach them a little bit about social media. So they can help you build content for your Facebook page or network in Facebook groups or whatever it is. If you're worried about the time aspect, just plan for it and have an SOP for when you finish your task. Here's where you spend your last little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of either just unknown, and then even people who have just started to like, tickle the idea. It's just, I don't know how to do it, or I don't know how I would keep them accountable. I think you've given us some really, really practical things. Obviously, the listener could reach out to you, and I'm sure you could help them with that as well. But inside of the business, how does a VA / maybe an in-person, like, so now we've got a mixture of employees. Talk about that for a second, because that's obviously another key factor here.
Right, for sure. So how the two kind of mesh together.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's just making sure you've got your communication dialed in. So with my team, we know that everything ideally goes through Slack. A lot of times communication's done through email if we're chatting back and forth with a client as well. But we have our core team chats inside of Slack. So my leadership team has a chat together. My marketing and sales team has a chat together. And so we just know to communicate based on who needs to know what. And it's just clearly defining job roles and knowing who is in charge of getting what thing done and how do we measure success for that person. And so people in the office, it's going to be easier because you can go and just have a conversation in a room, but the accountability aspect's removed because you're not documenting that conversation. A lot of times you're not going in your CRM, writing down, I spoke with Susie about doing this for next week. If it's in Slack or via email, you've got a paper trail so you can track what's going on. But it's the same type of aspect, just making sure that solid communication is happening inside of your company.
Yeah, I love that. Any book recommendations or leadership recommendations around communication? I think you're spot on. That's a whole nother podcast.
Right. So the kind of tried and true that everybody goes through is How to Win Friends and Influence People. My team reviews that pretty consistently. It's not going to talk specifically about strong communication inside of a team, but it's going to allow the team to communicate well. So in a leadership role, like one of my COO, I had him read this book just to make sure, hey, if you're ever needing to correct somebody, lead it with a positive, sandwich in whatever the problem is and what you need to fix, and then end it with a positive again. That way that person doesn't feel like they're being attacked. And so when they feel like, hey, this person loves me and cares about me, they want me to get better, they're going to be a lot more receptive to the communication and continue moving forward.
Yeah. What would you say? Because this has come up recently, and I think it's funny that when the strategy becomes a little bit more obvious, right? When someone knows they're being sandwiched, let's say, right? Is there a nuance here to where when that other person, it's like, I know what you're doing to me, but do they like it? Because that's like, no, actually, I'm doing the right things, or is it more of a like, oh, I don't know, I'm being sandwiched right now?
I get that because a lot of times in like if you're in business, you're in sales, and a salesman starts using some of those tactics, I think you can feel when it's genuine or not.
Yeah.
When somebody's using a closing tactic on me, and I feel like they're just trying to get a sale rather than doing something that's going to be beneficial to me, it's rather frustrating. But if I know that they're doing something where it's just consistent follow up and they're using certain trigger words that I've learned myself, a lot of times I'll respect it because I know this person is just putting in the extra work to make sure the right thing gets done.
Yeah, that's good. I appreciate that. In fact, I had a call with a guy just a couple days ago, and I don't always get on sales calls, but I have just a huge history in sales, and I love just the conversation. And this guy was, I mean, pretty small business, 400,000 or 500,000 in revenue, and he was like, "Man, I can tell you're good at sales. I already want whatever you got. I want to sign up for it because, man, this conversation is really good." He's like, "I thought I was good. But you're good." I'm like, "Bro, I really haven't even offered you anything yet. This is good."
It's awesome. Yeah, it's a good sign.
Yeah.
Those are buying signals.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, but to your point though, look, especially when the founder gets on the phone, it's like, yes, I want the deal. And I was, doing it in front of a team member. And so it was good training and stuff like that. But the reality is that, I could go without this sale. That's fine. And that's actually when the genuine approach comes that in sales. But then for all the other moments that you're talking about, when you can just be genuine, just be you, people can totally see that. How have you been able to implement that with again, kind of going back to this like virtual, or maybe even we've got VAs from other countries, like there now we got culture differences, potential language differences, English is a second language for some of our folks. Like, how do you expressing genuineness as an employer, as a team member, to when you had a difference like that?
Yeah, I think team calls are important. So we try to regularly get on Zoom calls where we talk about not business and build a relationship there, because so much does get lost in translation
Yeah.
when you're just typing on the keyboard in Slack. A lot of times I may just be being blunt because I'm busy, I'm on a sales call and I'm answering the team quickly, but that may be received as, oh no, he's frustrated, something's wrong, and you never know where that's going to go. So I think trying to get on Zoom calls regularly and building a relationship, hearing about life outside of work. What do these people care about? What do they do for fun? What's their family life like? I think it just helps to kind of drill into their mind that, hey, let's lean on the good first rather than automatically assuming the negative. I think starting with the end in mind is important.
Yeah. Yeah, just being a human.
Yep.
A human that cares, and when you care, it draws us or moves us to curiosity. That's what I'm hearing you say.
Yep.
Being curious about, it's funny. We're coming up on the holiday seasons. We're recording here in December, like you said, and, Christmas and stuff are here in a few weeks. And I can't tell you how frustrating it is when you go to a family or even a friend's giving of sorts, and you're the only curious person, It's obvious when you become really, really curious how not most people are. And so it's a little bit of a downer, really, but in business, it's amazing because if you can hone this skill set of being curious, like genuinely, like I actually want to know more about your life and how you do this thing. And maybe it's an impact on me positively or not. I don't know, but like, I'm just curious. When you can get to that place, like conversations and life go to a whole nother level. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think when you start asking questions about somebody else, they're their most favorite topic to talk about. Yeah. And they're going to spill their beans, just talking about everything they can because they're proud of what they've done. And so they're really excited to get to tell you about it. And then, like you're talking about from a business perspective, the law of reciprocity does come into play. So when they feel like you have given them an audience, they're going to feel like they owe you something else. And so they're much more excited whenever you do come with that ask to try and give back. And that's not the reason we do it. It's just when you become a human that does care about other people, it's just a byproduct that you start to get those things back.
Yeah, I'll give the listener just a quick example here because you actually did this. I've recorded 50, 60 episodes. I've talked with a lot of business owners. I could pretty confidently say for sure less than 10, it might even be less than 5. People have gotten on this podcast. Now you before this call, you had already gone through a question and answer session with someone on my team. So maybe most people get their questions answered and whatnot, but when they pop on with me, less than, let's say 10 for sure, maybe less than 5, ask me any questions. And I had to actually redirect you because you were asking so many questions at the beginning of this, which was great. I loved it. I felt like you were genuinely curious about my history, about what I was doing, about what I was building, whether that's something that makes sense for us to strategically partnership. We don't know. We'll talk about it, but you just don't know unless you ask. And it's like, man, you start to really hone this skill set. So I'm hitting hard on this because, looking back at my sales career, looking back at all the teams that I've built, hearing your story now, I think that the audience can walk away with going, look, ask a better question. Get into a situation where you see the other human on the other side, and maybe it's for us, it's faith related because I want to see people more than just another human on the other side. I want to see them as a creation, as a beloved one. Something's really, really special about them that I haven't been able to see yet, maybe, but I want to see it, And therefore, it draws me to curiosity. So I just really appreciate that about you. Give us a little tactic here. You've kind of mentioned a couple of books, but any sort of resources that you've talked a lot about SOPs. You've talked about, just keeping things in order, really bringing like organization to the organization in order to be able to scale. Any other resources here that you can drop for the listener?
I do think so. kind of giving a little plug to you and what you've got going on, but I think that coaches and mentors in my life have massively, just exponentially changed things because I'm able to borrow decades of experience that they have to shortcut myself having to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I think getting in some type of mentorship or coaching is important. Getting in a mastermind, I think, is incredible. If you can get in a room of like minded people, because entrepreneurship so often gets lonely, nobody understands the struggles that you're having to go through. They don't understand the headaches that you're having to deal with to try and make sure you can cover payroll and rent and your personal expenses all in one. I think that it just helps provide a lot of clarity and mental peace of mind if you can get in those rooms. So I think finding something where you can get around people that will coach you and mentor you to make you better would be the biggest hack that I could recommend.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not a secret any longer that that's a major hack. But still, there's people probably listening to the show right now that are like, nah, it's okay, I'll do it myself. And the only reason I know that is because I did that, for like probably 6-7 years. I'm doing millions of dollars in business and I'm like, I got this. But yet, fast forward that later that night, it's, 11 p.m. and I'm by myself in my office, like trying to figure it all out going,
Yep.
I didn't know this then, but now I look back, it's like all I needed was a couple of folks around me just to say, hey, I've done that before. Or, hey, like, don't worry about it. You got it. Or, hey, dude, we've talked about this like 3 times now. Why are you still doing the same thing over and over and over that doesn't work? Yep. All that's super valuable. Okay, Tyler, I got one last question here for you. I want you to pick the age. I've started doing this here recently. You get to talk to the younger Tyler. Okay, you tap him on the shoulder and you whisper in his ear. What do you say? How old is he? And what do you say?
It's a really good question. I think that 21-year-old Tyler would be a really good one to talk with just because I was in college trying to figure out what do I want to do in life. It's stressful trying to decide where am I going to go? What am I going to do? And kind of like we talked about earlier, just encouraging young Tyler, try things. You feel like you're different. You feel like you kind of know stuff. You're not going to know your thing until you try lots of things. So don't feel like you're any less valuable or any less good of a person because you've not went out and just crushed the world yet. It's just a timing thing. And a lot of times that person may have lucked into their thing sooner than you have. And so that achievement doesn't change your value. It just determines where you're at right now. And so you're no less of a person. So trying to encourage that young version of myself not to belittle my own self-worth in my mind because I've not figured it all out yet.
Yeah. I think that message is even super pure and right for some of the listeners here today that have maybe been in a business for 2, 3, 4 years, similar to your story and maybe they're successful, but they don't have joy. And maybe there's some things inside of that business that they can fix and it brings in joy and that's fine. But the extreme circumstance was, look, man, that just wasn't your thing. I did the first thing and it wasn't my thing. And I think we all have that, especially serial entrepreneurs. We started in a business and it helped us grow a little bit, but it wasn't like the thing that we loved. It was just the stepping stone. There's encouragement even in that like, hey, look, like if you haven't found your thing yet, no big deal. It's going to be the next thing.
Don't see it as a loss.
Exactly.
I tell people a lot, something can be a stop and not a stay. And so you may be stopping in this season to learn something from it. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a loss if you decide this isn't my thing and you want to move on. That's part of the reason I stayed in insurance so long is I felt like, I'm not going to let this thing beat me. I'm going to figure it out before I move to the next stage. And I think that's just the totally wrong way to look at it. I understand not wanting to give up, not sacrificing your dreams. And there's an element of truth to that, but also pursuing your happiness and taking lessons so that you can be more successful in something else, I think is really important.
Yeah, there's a permanency there. There's a couple of books in just psychology that talks about just permanency or pervasiveness or taking things personally. Those 3 things kind of really determine a lot of entrepreneur success. And so in essence, what you were just talking about is, you don't just look back and go, well, this is who I am completely. And it's like, no, I just was there for a little while. I learned a couple things, and then what can I do now with it? So that's good. How can the listener find you? Number one, remind them who they should be if they want help from you, because you obviously help people in a pretty specific way. But then also, if they're just an entrepreneur and they want to network with you, how can they find you?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, I'm pretty easy to find. If you search Tyler Woodall, I think it's linkedin.com/Tyler L. Woodall. Pretty easy to find. Send me a message. I'd love to be able to connect. If you're an insurance agency owner and you're stressed out in your day-to-day, it's agency-aid.com. If you're a business owner struggling to grow, we've got tons of free guides, time analysis worksheets, building your ideal life worksheets, anything to help you kind of move along that path. That is win with C4, the letter C, the number 4.com. Or tagline, the missing piece to make your company blow up. So reach out to me on either one of those websites. You're likely going to be chatting with a member of my team, but if you say, hey, I'm looking to chat with Tyler, they'll send you a link to my calendar, and I'd love to be able to chat and help in any way I can.
You have a system, it sounds like, for that. Maybe a couple of SOPs, maybe a couple of team members that are following those.
Quite a few, actually.
Yeah.
So I think it's important.
It's very important. You're doing the things that you just got done teaching us. Tyler, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here on the show. Thanks for sharing. Blessings to you and all of the agency owners and business owners that you're helping out there in this coming year, 2024. Blessings to you, man. Talk soon.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.